1811 4000। यही कंज्यूमर हेल्पलाइन।
जागो ग्राहक जागो।
पर कितनी प्राइस कम करेंगे टू व्हीलर में जिससे डिमांड बढ़ेगा? जब सब लोग कम कर देंगे तो आपका मार्केट शेयर तो बढ़ नहीं पाएगा। सब कर देंगे ना कम। इट्स अ वेरी कंपेरेटिव मार्केट।
Government has to ensure through regulatory mode and policy to facilitate larger supply of housing in the market, because it is only then the prices will,
Welcome back to Face the Nation. Turning now to our Face the Nation focus, which is always actually bad news these days. The question we're asking tonight is, price cut the best possible solution to beat the economic slowdown? You keep voting on that question, and we'll discuss that very shortly after we've got you this report. Now, it was a slowdown seldom seen. Corporate India openly disagreeing with the finance minister, that too in a public platform. Turned down the finance minister's request for price cuts. But is it really the best solution to beat the slowdown? India Inc. says no way.
The classic response to a demand slowdown is to cut prices.
The finance minister's argument was simple. A cut in prices will spur growth. But industries who are staring at one of the biggest global economic slowdowns don't think so. They see price cuts as damaging.
if price reduction increases your sales, then obviously you will not reduce your production. But if everybody in the industry, say two-wheelers, reduces his price, then how does market share improve?
In fact, major automobile manufacturers have reported an average drop in sales of over 30% in the last month alone. But hotels are doing well, with projected occupancy of over 80% for the coming months. Even they are unwilling to cut rates despite a request by Tourism Secretary to cut tariffs.
I don't think it's that we are going to be cutting any rates at the moment unless it comes down upon us as a mandate.
The industry is nervous right now. Their prime concern is to tide over the current financial crisis, so the larger picture paint finance minister may not suit their individual needs.
In fact, there's friction on either side. On one hand, the industry is unwilling to cut prices, and on the other hand, the bankers are unwilling to cut interest rates. So, in all this, it's the Aam Aadmi who's going to feel the heat for some time to come. In New Delhi, Varun Kumar.
So the government is telling industry, cut your prices. The banks refuse to cut interest rates, and industry saying we're not going to bring our prices down. So the big price debate. In our studio tonight, Sriram Khanna, in fact managing trustee of Consumer Voice, a big supporter of the consumer and a voice for all consumers. Ashwini Kakkar, vice chairman of Mercury Travels. And the question that we're asking you, let me remind you, is price cut the best possible solution to the economic slowdown? Is it only by cutting prices that demand can now be stimulated in the economy and sentiment can rise? What are you telling us at the start of the show? In fact, 69% are saying yes, 31% are saying no. Big majority there saying, for God's sake, bring those prices down. Let's get into Crossfire. Sriram Khanna, let me start with you. You're a great supporter that prices have to be brought down. Industry has to stop panicking and has to stimulate demand.
See, I agree with the finance minister. If you don't bring the prices down, the consumers are not going to come back to the markets. They're going to save, they're going to hoard, because they think a bigger storm is in the offing. Psychologically and sociologically, there has been a negative impact of the Western recession, and we believe that the Western recession will stay for at least 2.5 to 3 years. And it will have a negative impact, as it is already visible in the export-oriented industries, as it is already visible in the stock markets, where flight of capital has taken place and taken the dollar price to 50 rupees. It has brought the share prices down. People are saving. They are going into bank deposits. They want higher and higher interest rates. They're not going to money when you're going to tell them things are going bad. They're not as bad as they could be, because we are still going to end up with 6 to 7% of growth rate, as compared to a minus 0.5% for USA and minus 0.5% for the for Europe and Japan.
Let's put that to Ashwini Kakkar. Ashwini Kakkar, in fact, fuel prices have been cut. They've been cut 3 times. There is money in the system, as Sriram Khanna is saying. It's just that it's being saved, it's being hoarded. it's not as bad as it is in America. We still have a 7% growth. In this situation, why doesn't the airline sector at least bring prices down?
See, it is true that in traditional economics, everybody says, you know, the demand and supply curves should decide on prices. But this is a unique situation. In this situation, I think globally we are seeing a socialistic response to a capitalistic problem. And obviously, to me it seems that the finance minister sitting on his higher perch can probably see further than all of us. In this kind of situation, you know, I think he's putting everybody in the country in one basket. He's not saying that I'm going to only ask you for a price cut. He's saying I'm willing to look at tax cuts. I am looking to look at boosting of exports. I am willing to make sure that easy credit is available. I am willing to put money behind the rupee in terms of the dollar-rupee exchange rate. He is trying to do a lot of things on his own, but also on the other side asking the industry for a price cut. Now, if you look at he first went out and cut the taxes on air turbine fuel. Then he went out and he gave them extended credit periods. And after that, the prices of fuel were actually brought down by the oil companies, which was an interministerial debate. Now, in spite of that, the prices were not cut down by the airlines. Now, clearly, he is a bit miffed about that, and understandably
no, I'm trying to ask you.
But the airlines, on the other hand, are in a conundrum situation, because the airlines by the end of the year are going to show a 6,000 crore loss on one side. On the other side, if they don't reduce their prices, the seat load factors aren't going up. And demand is stuck at about a 30 lakh level for the month. Month after month after month we've been seeing this, and I think this is a great dilemma. And I think the best solution to this might be for airlines to start cutting their prices, see increases in their seat load factors, will help them to come out of the red.
Okay, but Sriram Khanna, you know, from the point of view of industry, what people like Rahul Bajaj or what KP Singh of DLF are saying is like, you know, Rahul Bajaj is saying, why should I cut prices when my margins are not that high to begin with? My margins are low, so how can I cut prices and still remain profitable? And DLF is saying that if there is still a demand for my expensive flats, why should I bring my prices down?
See, what Rahul Bajaj is saying, he's in an industry where he says there are three major operators. It's an oligopolistic pricing model. If he brings his prices down, the other two will also bring it down, so he doesn't gain. But there are many industries where there is a monopolistic competition or there are competitive conditions and the channels of distribution are small. However, in an industry where it's a competitive situation, there is no monopoly or there is no oligopoly, the benefits will go to the consumer. Wherever the supply chain of distribution is short, the gains will go. In the real estate sector, in the airlines industry, in the automobile industry, these conditions are there. A hotel room in Delhi, Sagarika, cost 4 times more than in Bangkok. Don't tell me the Bangkok people know magic. Our hotel industry is overpriced. I could never afford to stay in a 5-star hotel in this country. I can afford to stay in a 5-star hotel in Bangkok. I can take AirAsia.
People pay those rates. So why should the 5-star hotel bring their prices down?
That's the point. So the other point is the competitive conditions in those industries like airlines, real estate, automobiles are ripe for a price fall. And let me also remind Mr. Rahul Bajaj and all his friends, this country's economy is going to grow for the next 5 years. Base engine of domestic demand. If domestic consumers don't buy, you can say goodbye to the 7% growth. You have to stimulate demand, whether you do it by interest rate cuts or you bring down prices. In whatever way, I'm not saying bring it down tomorrow. You can wait, but until you bring down prices, consumer demand is not going to pick up. People are buying gold, they're putting fixed deposits, they're buying land, they're not willing to spend. Even the marriage season had many bandwalas free in Delhi, which is surprising because all the bandwalas are booked.
People actually have money.
Of course.
Indians have
a saving habit. They don't know what will happen tomorrow. And what they have been hearing on the television is mar gaye, phas gaye, doob gaye.
So is the media overdoing it a little bit?
Obviously, media is also overdoing it, But at the same time, you know, Delhi-Bangalore flight is more expensive than the AirAsia flights from India to Southeast Asia.
Ashwini Kakkar, my last question to you. Are industries like automobiles, like real estate, like hotels, are they being greedy about profits? Are they just wanting too much of profit? Is this a time for them to stimulate domestic demand by cutting price across the board?
You know, there is a case for what the finance minister is saying, because if you look at, let's take the real estate industry for example. In the real estate industry, steel prices have come down, cement prices have come down, retail financing by banks, especially State Bank of India, is going up, and yet prices are not being reduced. Now clearly, at one level you can say, hey, you know, if my competitor reduces prices, then, you know, my market share will not increase and so on and so on. But at another level, the pyramid of consumption, if you bring the prices down, more people can afford your product, and therefore the sales will go up immediately. And if these sales do go up, as the finance minister is projecting, then, you know, I think the whole industry will benefit. Now clearly, from where the finance minister is sitting, he can see a lot more across the world.
Right.
And I dare say he is exhorting us towards prudent economics. He's saying, do this before, you know,
it's too late.
Get into the Hindu rate of growth back again, or you get into a recessionary mode, or people start losing huge amounts of jobs, and then the situation becomes even worse. So
we're going to have to actually wrap it there.
Listen to his advice in the overall context of
we're going to have to actually wrap it there. Ashwini Kakkar, Sriram Khanna, thanks very much indeed for joining us. The question we are asking you, in fact, is price cut the best solution to beat the possible slowdown? What are you telling us? 69% are saying yes, 31% only no. Big majority there saying listen to the finance minister, industrialist, prices, restore sentiment, restore demand, and let's get back to high growth. Thanks for watching.